with Shedeur Sanders, something a little different from what you've heard the past few days about crazy stuff like
Just be mad.
Shedeur Sanders was told not to be drafted. NFL told teams not to draft Shedeur Sanders. Kevin Stefanski is ruining Shedeur Sanders on purpose. All right, let's understand a couple of things here before you get too crazy with stuff, right? I understand the Browns are tanking and they're looking for Archman. I understand that. I get all of that, right? I get all of that. But they didn't have to take him. Okay, so they didn't have to take him. They could have done very well this year with Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel. They could have done very well with them, but they went out to get Shedeur Sanders, all right? This is not something where the Browns are out to absolutely ruin a guy. Now, why is Sanders where he is? Now, he had a really poor game this weekend, right, to show that, okay, really not ready yet, and I understand that. But why has this been gone so slow for Shedeur Sanders? And one reason I'm going to give you is something we've talked about a little bit before, and one is something new that I want to open everybody's eyes to that, okay, now you're going to see, okay, this is why things have been going so slow, right? Number one thing with Shedeur Sanders, I said, is what? The talent is there, right? Obviously, everybody comes along at their own pace, and clearly he's maybe a little bit ahead with a great first preseason game. He had bad second game he had. I understand that, and got hurt and missed the middle game.
Yeah.
But clearly, the Browns, it's much different to be a starting quarterback at a big-time D1 school and to be the face of a franchise that is worth $1 billion. And the Browns want to make sure that when Shedeur Sanders starts, that he is responsible enough and he is mature enough to not go through knucklehead headlines like we've seen. Since he got drafted, we had the speeding situations, 2 of them. We had him yelling at a player in the middle of his first debut, right, because he had to scramble and got sacked. We had him get into it with a reporter right after the game is over because he didn't say anything nice about him. Now, clearly that was a little overblown, but still, why are you doing this, right? So I have to understand. You have to understand that the Browns have to see this more as just the guy is good, put him in and let him play, right? You've had instances now since he's become a Brown where you have to worry, okay, if we make him the starting quarterback, is he ready for this? Is he responsible enough to be able to handle being the face of a franchise? Or he's still going to be, I'm great and whatever I do is fine, and if you hate me, it's your fault. Okay, you can do that at some positions in the NFL. You can't really do it at quarterback. So it's not just can you handle it physically, it's emotionally, it's responsibly. Can you be the face of a franchise? Because that's who you are if you're a quarterback. And clearly this is something that I understand that Shedeur Sanders is still struggling with and has to improve upon if the Browns are going to make him the quarterback. Because they don't want to make him the quarterback and say, well, we're putting out PR fires every couple of days. And I don't even stuff with Dion. I mean all the look at the stuff that's going on that Shedeur has kind of brought on himself a little bit. They don't want to go through that. They've been embarrassed enough the last few years. So that part of it, I kind of understand. Or hey, that Shedeur, you need to show that we can trust you because this, again, being the face of $1 billion corporation is more than just, hey, he can sling it and he's tough and he's a talented quarterback. You're not protected by your dad. You're not protected by, hey, you can do that in college football. Some stuff you could do there, you can't do in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, look, we just get down to brass tacks. I mean, Kevin Stefanski's a guy with a track record. He's got a history. As much as we can mock the Browns and a lot of their decision-making throughout the years, Stefanski, I think to a degree has earned he knows what he's doing. So you trust the process, as it were. To your point, a lot of the off-field and even on-field stuff, getting after teammates, getting after opponents, right? We go back to his college days of stalking guys, like setting up to the big showdowns, and anytime someone might have said something that could be seen as untoward towards Dion, towards Shedeur, towards his teammates, that he's certainly taken umbrage with it throughout the process. And we'll never know 100% what's going on in meeting rooms going back to the draft and what caused him to fall fully to the 5th round. Eric Dickerson and so many others trying to talk about the position he's been put in. And yes, when you're a backup, you play with backup players, right? Jeff Schwartz, our teammate here, does Countdown on Sunday mornings here on Fox Sports Radio, talking about it through his own experience. Like, nobody's going and ordering the code red for a backup lineman who's fighting to earn a roster spot to play poorly. If anything, what we saw in that sack that has been shown a million times and played a million times here on Fox Sports Radio that he took for the 22-yard loss. Like, that guy did everything but shoulder tackle him like he was a member of the WWE to keep that guy from getting towards Shedeur Sanders. He could have been called for holding 4 different times on that play ahead of the sack if you really wanted to go down that path. So it's not that there aren't guys fighting for jobs alongside him, and they're going out of their way to make him look bad, right? So we can just cancel that noise. All the stuff from Eric Dickerson, our other teammate, TJ Houshmandzadeh, and everybody else about holding him back and making him look bad, whatever. I don't buy it, right? The order of not drafting him. There might have been a couple of rooms where there was a decision to say, hey, that's not a guy we're bringing in, potentially because of all the off-field and outside noise. But to say that it was a vast conspiracy to do that, you're never going to get me on board that.
Now, the other thing is this, right? For a different perspective, and this explains just why the Shedeur Sanders timeline has gone the way it was. Now, I didn't see this going into the draft, how big a story Shedeur Sanders was going to be, especially after going in the 5th round, right? You knew the beginning of the draft when Mel Kiper opens up with 5 minutes on Shedeur Sanders, we're not talking about Cam Ward at all, that suddenly Shedeur Sanders was going to be a big story. Deion's kid coming out, big deal. But I don't think we were ready for just how big a deal this was. This was a daily story that overwhelmed so many other football stories. The Browns became national news because they drafted Shedeur Sanders. Now, obviously, they're big news because it's the Browns, and you need 5 quarterbacks. But again, Browns. But I don't think the Browns were ready for how big a deal this was going to be. Hey, we got Shedeur Sanders. It'll be a deal now, and they'll talk, but eventually it's going to calm down, and he's a backup. He's coming in as a 5th round quarterback, and it's, there'll be a little bit of excitement early, but eventually we get into the preseason and go on, and he's got to prove himself, which is ridiculous because once you saw what was going on with the draft, you knew whoever got Shedeur Sanders, he was going to suck all the oxygen out of the room. So my thing is, I wonder if the Browns just really don't know how to play this story, right? They don't want Shedeur Sanders. They hate the fact this is an everyday story with Shedeur. Everything going on is Shedeur. So they're playing it close to the vest. You're not getting a lot of explanation from Stefanski or Berry or anybody about where his position is. We don't want to give too much oxygen to this. And whatever we do, we don't want to make a decision or a choice that could backfire on us. So we got to slow play this. We got to slow play Shedeur Sanders until we're absolutely sure he's ready for a bigger role, whether it's a backup, whether it's a starting job, whether he starts for a few weeks, whatever it is. And now understanding that they're overwhelmed by this and don't know how to deal with it. And that explains why Shedeur Sanders has come along and, yep, you're on the team. You're getting your reps. You're starting because everybody else is hurt. Hey, you had a great day, but then you're hurt. You're not starting. You're coming off the bench. You're playing in the 3rd and 4th quarter of this game. We don't know what we have. And if we mishandle a situation, it's going to be terrible for us, right? And then if we mishandle the situation, we're going to say, ready, hey, we take Arch Manning. And then Archie Manning calls and says, hey, Browns, this is Archie. Hey, I made this phone call 25 years ago. I'm doing it now. Yeah, look, I remember when I called the Chargers and said, don't take Eli. Yeah, don't take Arch. We're not signing. We're not going there. You guys are an absolute mess. So they know they don't want to be seen as we really can't handle things like this because of what could be coming in the future, whether it's Arch Manning or whether they got to handle Shedeur as a star. So they're out of their depth. They still don't know how to deal with this. So that's why everything with him has been slow played, and they're kind of learning as the days go on. And I'm sure they're thinking now, hey, when the games start, we're going to stop talking about Shedeur Sanders, right? Yeah, no, not so much. But I'm sure they're hoping that's going to happen. But I don't know that they've been equipped, and they are equipped right now to deal with this story on this level, which is why it's being slow played.
Well, I mean, some of it is also the fact that he's not clearly a number 1 guy. Otherwise, he would have been drafted in one of the first 4 rounds, right? If he was a clear can't-miss prospect, and he did some good things in that first game, there's no question about it. You can't deny that. But he looked equally bad in this 3rd game. Right? There were a lot of mistakes. There were a lot of problems. And you could say, yes, he was playing with 3rd stringers then. Weren't a lot of starters playing that full run, nor was he playing against 1st stringers that entire time going back to week 1. Those guys had a cup of coffee, he struggled, and then he stayed in the game and played well. That's fine. It's all learning. as you go through. Remember, Jimmy Haslam had that presser and was asked about Shedeur Sanders, and to me, it was like, no, it was all Barry. It was all his brain trust to bring this along. And again, Stefanski with the track record of having guys play well. And we got to the playoffs a couple of years ago. He did with Joe Flacco and company. But you had a roster that was pretty widely acknowledged as a pretty good roster. Well, it's not the same now, right? Now you're talking about a mid to lower tier roster that you have to try to navigate. There's no easy answer.
Yeah.
And Dylan Gabriel is certainly not a godsend either.
No,
right?
no.
You're talking about a battle between a third round guy and a fifth round guy.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. But I mean, just I don't know that they know how to handle this, and that's one big. Okay, why he doesn't get a bigger chance with the ones? Why he stayed fourth string all the way through the year? This is too much for us.
Well, you did miss some time due to injury. That doesn't help your case.
Exit Alberta Fresca, exit Swollen Dome. Jason Smith, Mike Harmon. Again, just something different for Shedeur Sanders, which could explain a lot of the last few months in Cleveland.